This is Jets at Noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
Welcome to the show, Cam Poitras and Jim Toth. Jim Toth back in the saddle. Jim, how are you doing?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm doing well. Good to be back, and no better time to come back from a quick little vacay than for one of the biggest games of the season, not only here in Winnipeg, but in the National Hockey League.
Everybody's tuned in. Jets at Noon brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line is going to win themselves a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method. Send us a text, 204-780-6868. We'll announce the winner later on in the program. The pregame show gets going at 5, puck drop at 7. And to help us batten down the hatch, John Walton, play-by-play voice of the Washington Capitals, with us now. Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, fellas, great to be with you. Yeah, what a game we got lined up tonight, huh?
Yeah, this is why we do it. This is why we do it.
The whole world is going to be watching. Wow, maybe not that much, but a lot.
I'm interested, John, because from the outside looking in, particularly at the start of the season, I wasn't buying too much of the Washington Capitals stock. I thought they were going to take a big drop. How wrong I was. Was that the feeling from, I mean, you're obviously much closer to this team. Was that the feeling from the inside that this was potentially going to be a season where this team takes a step back, or was there always the belief that these guys could do what they're doing right now?
I would say that the answer to that is somewhere in the middle, where I think that the early season success that the Capitals had was largely fueled by a lot of people outside of Washington thinking they weren't going to be very good, and I think they used that as motivation. Now, did we expect this, where this team would be 2 points in front of Winnipeg for tops overall in the league? I don't think anyone would say that. I think they were always going to be better than what others thought, but when they caught fire and every move they made in the offseason, they brought in 7 new players, and all of them have performed brilliantly, whether it's Logan Thompson, whether it's Pierre-Luc Dubois, whether it's Matt Roy, Jacob Chychrun, who just got the big ticket today, and he's signed for the long term, and he's had a fantastic year and has been healthy. So there's been a lot of different things that have occurred that have led to all of this. Spencer Carbery and his staff have done a magnificent job as well. But anybody, even in Washington, that would say, oh, yeah, we thought they'd be 31 over 500 and tops in the NHL. No, we didn't think that. That would be a bit of a stretch. But they have played awfully well, and a little bit of revenge maybe after the February 1st game in Winnipeg, and Morrissey got him in overtime back when these two teams got together. But it's going to be Logan Thompson, and that should be a lot of fun tonight.
John, of all the moves, what stand out to you? I mean, Chychrun's at the forefront with the brand new contract today, but there's been some moves being made. What was most influential to the success of this year so far in your mind?
Wow, that's a tough one because there's been so much. I mean, close to, as a former Jet, I mean, Pierre-Luc Dubois has been just sensational. It has been not just offensively. He's 2 points away from his career high he got with the Jets a few years back as he gets into play tonight. Offense is great, but it has been the defensive job that he has done, that he has been tasked with. Whenever the Caps have seen the Maple Leafs, it's take care of Austin Matthews. When it's playing Edmonton, it's taking care of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and getting those tough defensive assignments where he has just been terrific. That's a big one. Jacob Chychrun's offense from the blue line and being able to, if Trevor Van Riemsdyk gets an assist tonight, then they will have 6 guys that have 20 or more points. All the guys on the back end will have reached that mark. So they've got a lot of points in production from that. Matt Roy, quiet, but even offensively, he's beyond 20 points in a career high and has been so good defensively and makes life easier for the goaltenders, which is not just Logan Thompson, who will get the nod tonight, but Charlie Lindgren, who'll go in Minnesota on Thursday. Charlie got this team in the playoffs last year. Charlie's still very much a part of this too. So it's been a team with no weaknesses. They don't have that top line McDavid, Matthews, Draisaitl type guy, but they are solid from 1 to 12. They are solid from 1 to 6, and they are solid from 1 to 2. And they've been pretty healthy too, which has certainly helped. So it's tough to pick one, but there have been, of the newcomers that have come on board, Dubois, obviously Matt Roy, and Logan Thompson. He's 31-4, so obviously that's a big piece too. But all of them on any given night could certainly lead them to 2 points.
I was listening to Spencer Carbery in his post game following this 6-3 win over Florida just on the weekend. And that was the first time I really took in a full press conference from him. And wow, was I impressed? Maybe you can clue us in. What's it been like being around Spencer Carbery, and what kind of influence has he had on the players?
A gigantic influence on the players and this organization, and it's through positivity. It's through attention to detail. It's obviously well-spoken and a real treat for us in the media every day to be able to get insights. We've all had coaches that don't want to tell you anything, and those are tough for us. And Spencer is not that guy. He comes from more of that John Cooper mold, where you're going to get good, solid answers to good questions, and he's been just a joy to work with. It's not just him. I mean, Mitch Love's going to be an NHL head coach one day, and Scotty Allen, I think, will be too, and Kirk Muller, just that steady hand at the wheel, who's kind of been there, done that, and has done so much in his hockey life and bringing that expertise to the staff. And I mean, just all the way through, they're such good people, and they're really good at what they do, and it's been a lot of fun to watch.
It's interesting too, John, because the success this team has been fascinating to watch, and these years go by, and then it's not a second thought, but it almost gets lost in the background is the Ovechkin chase, and I'm wondering how the two have married each other, having watched them and covered it, because they're both great stories, but it's often not seen two great storylines like this of success of a team and the success of a player chasing an all-time record.
Yeah, I can tell you from being around this team day to day that it is not lost. It is asked everywhere we go, and it always seems to be front and center too. But it is obviously exciting. And, as someone who I strangely on a fluke when I was in the minors, I mean, I was a lot younger, obviously, but I just started in pro hockey in the AHL in Cincinnati. And Eddie Johnstone was my assistant coach there and a former Ranger. And he had, on an off night when we were in New Haven, we went down and saw the Rangers play the Islanders. And lo and behold, it was the night that Gretzky scored .894. So we didn't know that. He hadn't announced his retirement yet. We didn't know what we had seen until, a couple of weeks later when he didn't score the rest of the season. And even after he announced his retirement, he never scored again, and that was it. So all these years later, to see this happening and being around him every day, it's been a lot of fun. I've been really lucky to be able to be around this game as long as I have and to see all kinds of wonderful things. This is a truly wonderful thing. And it is great, to your point, that it's happening with a team that is 31 over 500 and winning a lot of games and a lot of very high aspirations now for the playoffs and hoping that they will win a playoff series. They haven't done that since they won the Cup. So trying to get back to putting a deep run together, doing it against the backdrop of Alex Ovechkin and 7 away as we hit the ice here tonight in Winnipeg. So just exciting. It really is. If you can't enjoy these days and what goes on around them, then you're probably in the wrong job, because it's just all smiles all the time. Just the beauty of the sport as much as anything. But really, really great stretch here, really from the beginning of this season all the way through.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be the Subway and the Red Hot Cheetos. And I saw there was a photo of Ovechkin snapped. That's kind of a ritual of his. I mean, is there going to be any disappointment if he doesn't hit it over the rest of the season?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Is there any disappointment over the rest of the season if he doesn't hit that number?
I mean, I think there's just been, it got so close. I mean, honestly, on the 18th of November, we kind of said, it's not going to happen this year. So, I mean, we've kind of been riding the wave. And when he broke his leg in Salt Lake, this is, it's not going to happen. Yeah. And then, wow, he came out firing. You're like, well, maybe it'll happen. And I think it's always been, gosh, we hope so. But, I mean, there's always been a little bit of hesitation. Like, maybe it doesn't. I think at this point, because he's so close and it's all the way right down to the wire. And I should tell you that if it does come to game 82, the Caps are at home for their 81st game of the season. The very last game of the season this year is in Pittsburgh. So if it gets to that point, and you've got Sidney Crosby on the other side, you've got this wonderful, better part of 2 decades rivalry between the Caps and the Penguins. I don't know that our fans would want to see it happen in Pittsburgh, but I am curious what that moment would look like when you have Wayne Gretzky and Gary Bettman and Nick Backstrom, who is going to be traveling with us, and Sidney Crosby and all of the folks on the other side for Pittsburgh, and I'm sure the Pittsburgh fans would rise to the occasion, but just the fact that if we're talking about, he needs 7 and 12. I mean, it's going to come down to the last couple of games if he gets it done this year. And one of those real possibilities is in Pittsburgh. So we will see, as they say, come April 17.
John Walton, play-by-play voice. So sorry, you got one more quick one here, Jim?
Just going back to the AHL days, John, I always like picking your brain when it comes to hockey. What do you make of the Jets this year?
I think they're fantastic. I'm a big Scott Arniel fan from his days in Washington. He was on our postgame for years. I am thrilled for his success. I've actually watched a lot of Winnipeg games this year, in large part because of him. I think they have a lot of the same characteristics that the Capitals do. They're obviously a high-scoring team. They have a tremendous goaltender. Connor Hellebuck, as much as I love Logan Thompson, he's probably number 2 in the Vezina voting. I think without question, Connor Hellebuck's been the best goalie in the league this year. It's just such a great matchup here tonight, in large part because of it. I know that the Jets are a little bit banged up, but it's just kind of like what we see with the Caps. I mean, all the way through 1 to 6, you've got really good defense, and you've got a goalie back there that's a pretty big eraser and plenty of offense. And it's the Caps and the Jets and everywhere else, and anyone else after that. I think they are clearly the 2 best teams in the league, and I think it's a lot of fun that we get one more crack at seeing them head-to-head, and maybe we might be back in June. I'd like to think so. I'd take it right now if you gave it to me.
So would I.
Wouldn't that be something?
John Walton, play-by-play voice of the Washington Capitals. John, always a pleasure. Take care and great stuff.
Fellas, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, John. All the best. Have a great call.
Yeah, 204-780-6868, 204-780-6868. It's the schedule makers. Okay, he doesn't hit it this year, Jim. Okay, and maybe he's 3 off. How does a schedule maker go about, like, as if nothing's going on? Like, he's 3 away.
If he's 3 off, you think they start with a 6-game homestand?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, how do you do it? Like, we're going to send him out to the West Coast on a 6-game road trip to start the season. Like, how do you?
That would be interesting.
Like, it would have to be status quo. Like, it would have to be like you have to act like nothing is going on. But that would be impossible. You could.
Yeah, I don't know if it goes into next year. I mean, and playoff goals count too, right?
No, he's got to get to 82. Yeah.
Yeah. So 80. Yeah. So I think he does it. I think
he's got 7. He's got to do 7 and 12.
Yeah, 7 goals in 12 games. So
yeah.
I don't know, but I love what John said there about November 18th when he broke his leg, and he just thought, well, he'll probably need 8 to 13 goals next year.
Yeah,
and the watch will be on. But I think he does it this year, which I think is also phenomenal, right? Like I didn't imagine when this talk started about 2 seasons ago we'd be talking about this year. I thought it'd be going into next year, and will he play till he's 40? And so
let's take a break. Let's come back on the other side. I'll tell you how the Jets can clinch a spot in the postseason. 2 things. Well, there's 2 things that could happen, and if both of them happen, then the Winnipeg Jets are officially. We're going to see whiteout parties here in Winnipeg. Still to come. Yeah, Vilardi is out. John Walton, their play-by-play voice of the Washington Capitals, alluded to that. He's out week to week. Upper body injury that Scott Arniel described as freak. It's caused some line shuffling. We'll get to that before the show's out. Don't go anywhere.
Jets at noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
Well, the Winnipeg Jets can become the second team to clinch a spot in the 2025 postseason following the Capitals, their opponent tonight. Today, they can book their ticket to the playoffs by earning a point over the only team already in the dance, or St. Louis can lose in any fashion to the Habs tonight. So I don't like to say it, but I hope the Jets can take care of business. But if not, puke, go Habs, go. And you'll never hear that out of my mouth again.
Puke. Look, what's lost in tonight a little bit is if they clinch, however they clinch, there's a lot of people at the start of the year that didn't think they'd make the playoffs.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that thought they'd be a wild card team.
And they can do it with 10 games left.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
They could set a record for regular season points. Now, we're going to get into like the up and down of the Buffalo. I know you guys talk about the Buffalo game and all that, but I mean,
get your thoughts on that.
As these things get going, like now it's all about finishing first. You have to finish first. But it just stood out to me as they could clinch tonight that some people didn't think they'd even make the playoffs this year.
Vilardi out, lines juggling. We'll tell you what's going on after this.
Yeah, obviously it sucks for Gabriel. You know, he's had such a great year, and you obviously just want him to get as healthy as soon as possible. So, you know, he's a guy that's dialed in and wants to wants to do everything he can to get back as fast as he can. And obviously, we've played with Al before. We know how great of a player he is, and how many good things he does out there for us. So obviously, it's going to be adjustment, but excited to play with him tonight.
So Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, and Alex Ovechkin. All we know about Gabriel Vilardi's injuries, it's week to week. Is it 4 weeks? Is it 6 weeks? Is it 3 weeks? Is he going to be ready for the playoffs? Is he going to miss the first round? We don't know. We're going to have to wait and see.
It's not good, though.
There's a lot up in the air here. But, just cross your fingers. You're hoping Neil Pionk's back for the playoffs, too, as well. So the Jets, an opportunity again to clinch. They win in any fashion, or St. Louis loses in any fashion. The Winnipeg Jets are off to the playoffs. So we got whiteout parties here, once again, guaranteed in the city of Winnipeg. We'll get to those. We'll get to the line rushes from the morning skate today in just a second, Jim. But Robert texts the show. He says, "Hey, Cam and Jim, I'm still upset over the Buffalo game. If you're going to win the cup, you have to win games like that. No excuses." That one from Robert. Before we get going, did you caught the game on Sunday with the Sabres? And do you have any thoughts on it? I mean, the dominant game by the Winnipeg Jets, but unable to grab the W.
Yeah, I didn't catch. I fast forward through it, and yesterday is when I got into it, and I was mostly looking for the Vilardi injury. Yeah. To see what happened. But look, I thought they heavily outplayed Buffalo and got goalied. Now that's going to happen come playoff time too. I knew this was going to happen. Yeah. And so I just kind of, like when they lost to Vancouver, I thought, man, doing a show tomorrow would be, you're going to hear about this. Like, you have to beat these teams. It's just that time of the year. Yeah. The Oilers are going through it. Florida's going through it.
Every team but Dallas. Every team but Dallas right now, it seems.
Yeah, and Dallas is catching fire here. So it is what it is. I don't read too much into it. I look, it's a different story if they played terribly. They did not. They outshot, outchanced, everything. If you get into a 7-game series with James Reimer, he might do this to you one game. I don't think James Reimer is going to do that so many games in a row. But
Texter Allen sent us this. It was the scoring chances were 32-9. And when the Jets went down 2-1 in that game, they had 24 shots on net to Buffalo's 6.
Yeah, so that's another reason, Cam. I know a lot of people look at the standings and go, this is a terrible Buffalo team. You should beat them. I don't. I look at it, were you all over them? Did you outchance them? Yeah. Did you create a lot? Did you get goalies a lot? That's how I look at it. What I put more heat into is when they play Dallas again, and how you play against Dallas.
And tonight, would you put tonight's game in the same category?
Tonight's another one. Yeah. Like if they play like they did against Buffalo against Washington, then I don't have any problem with it. Like, I don't look at the times they lose to bottom feeders and read too much into it, because there's a way more example and games of them playing way better and winning, dominating games, good teams. Yeah. I was thinking about this Washington game the last time. They had a 2-0 lead in Washington. They took it to the Washington Capitals on the road. And then Washington fought back. They had a couple lucky breaks. Yeah.
Ovechkin's goal for sure.
The Ovechkin goal for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, I thought, no, look, and I don't want to discredit Washington. Their pushback in that game was what you expect from a top-end team. It was a good pushback. But the Jets came out on the road and had a 2-0 lead and quite easily could have had more. And so then I go to this game tonight, no Vilardi, no Pionk. If you can get a win tonight against Washington with no Vilardi, no Pionk, I'll read more into that than I would the Buffalo game.
And I always like to look at the other team's injury reports, see who's not going to be in there. The Washington Capitals are a healthy team right now. They have no significant injuries. Now, of course, that can change over their final 12 games here or so, but they've stayed healthy. And they've got some like Pierre-Luc Dubois, I certainly have been joking about him over the course of this year, but at the time it seemed like Washington was doing a favor to Los Angeles by getting him off that team, right? It didn't cost them much. It cost them Darcy Kemper.
Well, and Kemper's been great for them, so I think they did do him a favor.
Yeah, and so it was a player for player trade. And it's worked out for both teams. And, there was a lot of people that were shaking their head at that trade from Washington's too much money. And PLD, like as he said, he's closing in on the record that he set with the Winnipeg Jets. So
61 points in 70 games, 18 goals. So he's probably going to get 20 goals this year. Compared to 82 games with LA, he had 40 points.
Yeah, he was bad in LA. It just didn't work.
This is him, right?
Yeah.
That's the frustrating part about Pierre-Luc Dubois. And that's why a lot of people say, you wanted them to sign Dubois and stuff. If you can get this out of him, if he's motivated, and let's be honest, this is what it's about. He was embarrassed. He was embarrassed, and so he found motivation. Yeah. he might have another season like this, but 3 years from now, is he going to be motivated? Or like, that's the big, I like Pierre-Luc Dubois as a player. I liked him as a person.
Yeah.
My problem with him is it just his motivation on how to be great night in, night out was not always there. We saw how he left Columbus.
Yeah. And there's still the risk of like next year, what kind of PLD are you going to get next year? Right?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like there's
it's
6 more years on this contract. 2 years from now, what are you going to get? And so I'm not surprised he's having this year.
It was always.
If you're a Jets fan and a Blue Jackets fan, I think you find it highly annoying.
Yeah, it was always in him. That was the thing. That's why when he was dictating where he was going to end up, which he did, he only wanted to go to a handful of teams that he would accept it. He would get traded for and would sign with. There's only a handful of teams he was going to go, and that's why the Jets. I remember Darren Dreger on this show joined us, and he said that the Winnipeg Jets right now are trying to move heaven and earth to keep PLD and make him happy and keep him in Winnipeg because he can play like this, and they knew that. But it's, what are you going to get from him? And that's what there's nothing more. I know a lot of things frustrate fans on different levels. To me, there's nothing more frustrating than somebody who just once in a while gets motivated. Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, you're not going to be great every single night. You're going to battle through injuries. You're going to have life issues that maybe you're not at your best for a month or so. But in general, you as a high-end athlete like Pierre-Luc Dubois should not have a season like he had last year.
Yeah, I agree. Let's get to the line rushes. The Jets, they were same as yesterday at practice. Connor Scheifele, Iafallo, Ehlers, Lowry, Appleton, Niederreiter, Nemesnikov, and Perfetti, and then Barron, Kapari, and Tanev on the fourth line. Morrissey, DeMello, Sandberg, Shen, and then Stanley and Miller. Stanley's going to be staying in the lineup. Hellebuck's going to be getting the start in goal. What do you think about this, Jim? What are your initial thoughts on the second line, particularly? I mean, Iafallo, he was always that guy that you'd give a chance. If somebody gets injured in the top 6, he was going to be the guy that moves up, right?
Well, ironically, we just talked about him as I know he's on the floor when we talked about that Ken Wiebe from the Free Press. He's going to join me in my show in the next hour, by the way, just to tee up tonight's game and the injuries and stuff. But when he had the news that they were talking about an extension because he's happy here, he's not a fourth liner in my mind.
Yeah,
he's a third liner that can move up into the top 6 if need be. And then, ironically, this is what's happening, right? So I think it's always about pairing. Like, I know we talk lines to death, but for the last decade or so, I've been hearing more and more coaches talk about pairings. It's Connor Scheifele, it's Nemesnikov and whoever, but to me, it's Lowry, Ehlers, right? He saw what Lowry and Ehlers did earlier in the season when they were another injury, and he went with it, and it worked out well. And I thought there was the compliment is Adam Lowry's a lot quicker than people give him credit for. People think he's slow. He's not slow. He's just not super fast. But he's decent speed, and it played really well off Ehlers. The problem with Ehlers is he's often paired with guys who have not equal, but really good speed, and then it's too much. And, So I think that he made notes of that, and it stood out to him, and so he's going to Ehlers Lowry. And then I think he's, going Nemesnikov Niederreiter he's seen in the past, and then Perfetti's down in the third. I think this is, to me, Perfetti's, I'll get into this a little bit more in our podcast, but I think Perfetti's played better than Vilardi the past couple of weeks overall. I don't know if Vilardi's been nursing something and then really aggravated it on the injury or whatever.
That's my suspicion. I don't know if that's correct or not.
I don't know either, but and I'm not knocking Vilardi. He's had a fantastic year, and I really, really like him as a player, and they need to extend him.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think he's been fighting it for the past 2 weeks. And so, but I think what they're doing here, Cam, is they're looking at a number of things. To me, come playoff time, if need be, I put Perfetti on that top line.
Mm-hmm.
But then I don't if I like what I see over the next couple of games. But you have to see it, right? If Iafallo comes in there and digs some pucks out for Scheifele and Connor, and they put up some points over the next couple of games, I make a note of that. And I go, maybe I don't need Perfetti up there because on the third line, Perfetti could feast.
Mm-hmm.
Could feast on a third line with how well he's played the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. No, and the thing about Iafallo is his game plan and what he needs to go out there and do is so obvious. Like, he's got to go and he's going to be in front of the net, and he's going to go dig pucks out in the corner.
And I think you look at it right now, right? This, again, you don't want to do this, but if the opportunity presents itself through injuries, let's have a look at it.
Well, let's look at the second line. Ehlers, Lowry, Appleton. There's going to be a lot of people that say, why isn't Perfetti on that line with Ehlers and Lowry? Why is Appleton have that opportunity? And why... And I don't know. I think that has something to do with the potential of Niederreiter, Nemestikov, and Appleton being on a line.
People aren't going to like this, but you remember Appleton in overtime? Remember when he gets the odd shift? Overtime goal in Colorado? It's defensive, right? Defense leads to offense.
That's right.
He made the play on McKinnon along the wall. Again, I'm not saying that this is why it's happening. I'm just saying we have an opportunity to look at. Coaches love to say also when there's injuries, I don't like to disturb 3 lines. If I don't have to, I'll mix up 2. There's a lot of mixing up here. And Kapari's back now, Tanev and Barron's back on the wing. I think they're looking at some things here. I think when the opportunity presents itself, it's not what we want to do, but let's not just fix a line. Let's look at some things here and make some notes like they did weeks ago with Ehlers and Lowry.
With Vilardi and Pionk out now, you have the Dallas Stars storming up. When they do lose, they're still picking up a point over the last little bit here.
Shut out Minnesota last night. 32 saves by Ottinger.
Is it acceptable to not finish first in the Central here?
Well, acceptable if it happens isn't going to do me any good to say no.
Yeah.
They need to finish first to give themselves, because A, they've earned it.
Yeah.
And B, you need to get Calgary or Vancouver in the first round.
Like, it has the...
You need to get 5 games under your belt.
St. Louis is they're on fire.
Yeah.
And that looks like it could be a potential opponent. They could top the Minnesota Wild too in the wild card race.
I mean, how do you feel about this team if they finish second?
I don't care.
You know, in a lot of ways, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
You're going to have to, you need to win.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you finish come playoff time. You need to win a couple rounds.
If you would have asked me that 2 or 3 weeks ago, I'd have been like, oh no, they have to finish first. But my mindset has changed so much over the last little bit, and looking at this and looking at that, and they just got to drop the puck on the playoffs. Like I'm just ready to start the playoffs. I mean, after tonight, it's gonna be 10 games left. Let's get going here. Let's get going, because it doesn't matter. Okay, they match up against Colorado in the first round. Good. That's a good thing that you have a chance to right the wrong of last year against Colorado. And if the Jets come out of that and they don't win the series, then they weren't going to go anywhere anyways. So let's see where this goes.
Yeah,
let's see where this goes. Like okay, they finished first. I think it's a great accomplishment for this team to finally, out of the gate here, win a division from where they started. But let's get going with the playoffs. I mean, we can't look past Washington. This is a big game coming up here. I mean, these are measuring stick games. You got the Devils here on Friday again. That's another chance to continue to build towards something here. But let's drop the puck. Let's drop the puck already.
Well, that's what it's always been about, right? So
I'm anxious
we're
already
skirting
about
the
it.
issue, but I think they need to finish first.
Yeah.
I think they need to do that for their own self. But you're right.
It doesn't matter anymore.
They can finish third and have a disaster.
Well, okay.
It's all about the playoffs,
and then
right?
you finish first, and all of a sudden St. Louis comes in here. And since Jim Montgomery's been coaching that team, they're playing way, way better. It's not an easy out.
That's why it's really important over the next couple of weeks with these injuries that they elevate.
Yeah.
Because
the depth
what
has
has
to
this
show
whole
up.
season been about? So can you elevate come playoff
Can
time?
the depth show up?
St. Louis is elevating.
That's exactly what the Jets need. They need the depth to show up. So show up.
And the story goes, Braden Shen didn't want to be traded because he didn't want to do that to the guys in the room. They felt that they could fight for a playoff spot, and they're fighting for one.
That's right.
So it's in, but I mean, Washington has a game in hand. They got 2 points up on them. They won 4 in a row. The Jets are coming off that loss to Buffalo.
Still 3 weeks till the end of the season.
Washington on the road is 23-8-2. At home, the Jets are 25-6-4. Dallas is 6 points back with a game in hand. They need to do some damage.
I'm going to squeeze in a text from Jeff here. He says, hello, guys. Is the Caps' ascent similar to the Jets this year? How come the Caps are not at the top of recent rankings? Are they all smoke and mirrors? Looking forward to see how they do in the playoffs. I would venture to say the Jets have a much better chance of advancing deep in this year's playoffs. Thoughts?
This is interesting, right? Like,
thanks. A good text.
All of you
Jeff,
listening have, at this point, have done the same thing we have. Smoke and mirrors, we hear this. It's 71 games into the season. Washington is 70, Dallas is 70, Vegas is 70, Carolina is 70, Colorado 71, Florida 71. We've all seen and heard the same things. Do you think it's smoke and mirrors? I do not. Now, Colorado or Dallas, if it ends like this, one of them is going to be out.
Yeah.
Is it smoke and mirrors? I don't think so. I think what we're seeing at this point is real. And what we've heard is real. And I don't see any, I see the chinks in the armor for every team, and I see the armor is pretty solid for most of them in the top 10. They are what they are, and that's what's going to make it amazing. But I don't, the whole, like, smoke and mirrors talk to me is game 40, 45, halfway through the season. Do you think this is real? Do you not? I think once we got to 100 points in 71 games, I don't think it's smoke and mirrors.
No. It's not. I'm with you on that. Let's take a break. Let's come back on the other side. Let's get some more text messages from you guys. 204-780-6868. Top team in the West, top team in the East, duking it out here at Canada Life Center.
Great question.
Pre-game, great text, Jeff. We'll get to it. Pre-game at 5, puck drop at 7 here on 680 CJOB. We'll be right back.
Jets at noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
Jets at Noon is brought to you by our good friends at Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road, the VIP text. We got it early on in the show. He says, hey, fellas, it's Jack. IFL has been a consistent and key member of the team, but hasn't gotten nearly enough recognition. With Vilardi gone, I think he's really going to shine on the power play and on the PK. Wherever he ends up with a potential line change, I'm looking forward to watching him crush it. That one from Jack. Congratulations. You're going to Wash Method, the most romantic place in the entire province of Manitoba.
It's Manitoba's Niagara Falls.
It is. Kevin texts the show. He says, I hope the Jets win tonight 4-3 with Ovi getting a hattie. That would be worth the price of admission.
I wonder if tonight's sold out, because I know for a couple of weeks now, people have been saying, I got to try and get to that game. They were trying to figure out like work schedules and kids hockey playoffs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I would imagine this is look, you're not going to see the goal tonight unless he gets 8.
Hey, anything could happen.
But if he gets one, it's you saw goal number 890 whatever, right? Or sorry, 880 whatever.
Yeah, you saw him get real close. So I think you might have missed the boat a little bit if you're.
And I remember watching Tampa take it to the Jets, and Steven Stamkos got his 60th goal of the year for the first time in his career, and the Jets crowd gave him a standing ovation. I think it was like 6-2 was the final, But they, it's a hockey city. It's a hockey province, and they respect like milestones like this. Now, none of them want to see him break it tonight, and I know that's not going to happen, but none of them want to see them get a win.
Very close to a sellout.
But if the Jets could win 5-2 and Ovechkin got one, I bet you he gets quite the round.
It's definitely going to be a sellout, the game tonight. Yes. No doubt about it. It's very, very close. Like, I'm talking like a handful. And when I say a handful of tickets left. This texter says, if Jets lose tonight and Dallas wins next 2 games before the Jets play Friday, Dallas will only be 2 points behind. Let's not get there, okay?
It's going to be fun. Like, it's a race, right? And again, you talked about St. Louis stepping up. The Jets need to get going and be playing well.
Depth's got to show up. Jim Toth to take you all the way until 2 o'clock. Pre-game at 5. Pumped up at 7. Jets, Capitals. Thank you very much, Jeffrey Forche, for producing the show. That's it for me. Be back same time tomorrow. See ya.